What's up, everybody? Good evening. We're doing another video game review here, and this one's going to be a little different than the typical ones because we're not going to be reviewing a full game here. We're going to be reviewing a DLC or downloadable content package that was released for a game that came out last year. I said that I wanted to do a YouTube review of every video game I played that came out in 2023. And Ragnarok obviously came out near the end of 2022, but since this DLC came out a few days ago, I figured I can do a review of it. So we're going to be talking about God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. Came out on December the 12th. I played it a couple of days late. I beat it over the course of 2 streams over on Twitch. So if you want to see my full God of War Ragnarok Valhalla experience, you can go over to Twitch and watch the VODs, or you can go to my Twitch VOD archive channel here on YouTube, and those should be uploaded within the next couple of days. So, God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. I'm going to try to talk about it the best I can without spoiling anything, although I will say this DLC was relatively, I don't want to say story heavy, but story and character stuff was relatively heavily considered when they were making this DLC. So it's going to be hard for me to discuss it without getting into any of that. So, real quick, I think that the base game, God of War Ragnarok, is an amazing game. One of the best games to come out in the last console generation. I would put it up there with any game that came out this generation outside of the true Titans games like Grand Theft Auto 5, Metal Gear Solid 5, Persona 5 Royal. If you take those games out of the equation, then I think that God of War Ragnarok is right up there with a game like, say, Red Dead Redemption 2. So it was an excellent game. It improved on the first one in all the most important ways. The combat was great. The game looked beautiful. The way it advanced on the story that was started in the first God of War, in the reboot from 2018. Awesome. It was an amazing game. One of the best games that I've played in recent memory. And I was very excited about this DLC. However, when I learned that the DLC was free and it would just be given to everybody who had a copy of Ragnarok, I wasn't really expecting that much. I was expecting maybe an hour or an hour and a half. It would be a bunch of dialogue with maybe like one level of combat and then a boss. That's not what's going on here at all. And God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is an incredible DLC for being free. I can honestly say that if this DLC was $10, I would still recommend it because I really liked this and there's some substance here. And if you are somebody who can really get into a roguelike structure in a game, you're going to get even more out of it than I did. But God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is, just to talk about the gameplay, is basically a roguelike spin on God of War. Kratos goes to a location, and in order to advance the story, he needs to get through a bunch of trials by combat. And these trials by combat are set up as like stages. You go through them, you kill enemies. When you get to the end of a stage, you pick your upgrade that maybe it'll increase your strength, increase your health, give you a new ability, give you a new rune ability. It'll do all these different things for your character. And when you die, you go all the way back to the beginning and you lose all your upgrades. But you'll be able to do permanent upgrades on some of your attributes as well. You'll be able to add health. You'll be able to add rage meter. You'll be able to add stats, etc., etc. It's a roguelike. If you played Hades, you know how this game goes. In fact, I think that other than the combat being very different, this Valhalla DLC plays exactly like something like Hades. And Hades is the only roguelike I've really played before. So that was what I compared it to. And the comparison is very strong, very obvious. And it's good. It's a lot of fun. It works really well. They make it so that every time you go through the cycle of fighting through this location, which I don't think it's a big spoiler to say it's Valhalla, it's a little bit different. and your approach is often going to be a little bit different. If the RNG is going to affect your run. The run is going to affect how you play it if you want to be the most efficient. Like sometimes you're not going to find your favorite ability set, but you're going to find other abilities that can be really good. You just need to modify the way you're playing it in order to take full advantage of it. So the gameplay loop is just that. You keep going through Valhalla, fighting through stages of enemies. You fight a couple of bosses on the way. You get your upgrades after every fight. And there comes a certain point where you get to the end and you beat it and you advance the story, but then you have to go start at the beginning. So, yeah, in short, it's straight up just a roguelike, and it's a very good one. And the gameplay elements of this are up to par with just about anything. And if you can get into that loop and go over and over and over again and do the optional challenges, you could spend dozens of hours in this. So the story itself, I don't really want to get into it too much. I will say this, beat Ragnarok before you play this. I think that's obvious. It'd be very weird if somebody bought God of War Ragnarok and didn't play the base game, but then played the Valhalla DLC. But it takes place after Ragnarok, picks up kind of where Ragnarok left off. To briefly summarize it without giving away anything that isn't given away within the first 15 minutes of the DLC, Kratos is summoned to Valhalla. He doesn't know by who, but he goes there and he realizes that going through Valhalla, he needs to basically master himself. He needs to come to an understanding with himself. There's a lot of stuff in here where you get references to Kratos' past, by which I mean his past in ancient Greece, which is the old God of War timeline. The of God of War games on the PS2 and the PS3, which I played all those games and I loved all those games. So it was great to see this series, this reboot, address the old stuff because I love the old stuff too. I like this better. I think this flows a little bit better and works a little bit better, but there were a lot of references to the old God of War franchise. So if you if that's interesting to you at all, I think you're going to love this. Basically, as you advance through the cycles of Valhalla, like I said, the roguelike cycle, you will be exposed to character stuff and story stuff in equal measure, but via dialogue, via seeing certain things, and it's all doled out extremely well. And by the end, I felt like I had learned stuff about these characters that I didn't know before. I love the interactions between some of the characters. There are going to be a couple characters that do not get involved here from the base Ragnarok game, but there are also some characters from Ragnarok that you will see again here. And um, overall, it was just a really great experience for people who really loved Ragnarok and wanted to see these characters again. It also bodes well for a future installment in this series, which I know some people will be very happy about because I guess Sony has indicated that they may not make another one, which I don't know why they would even consider not making another one. That would be very silly with how successful this game was. But if they're making new story content for Ragnarok, they must be planning to make another game. So that's going to relieve some people, I think. But yeah, this was an amazing DLC, easily worth $10 as it stands. It's free, so you should play it anyway. As far as DLC goes, I think this is a 10 out of 10. There's nothing that I can really take away from it. See you guys later.